Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Am I coming? Great, thank you very much. My name is Mary Huckabee, and I am the Northern California Chapter Vice President volunteer. And I want to welcome everybody that has driven, from what I'm told, there's bad weather out there, not very good conditions. And I just want to say thank you so much for doing that and coming to our patient education days, actually your patient education day. I would like to introduce my sister. This is Julie Reed. Julie is my sister. She's my best friend. She has always been my biggest supporter from day one, which was for me, well, it's all our life, but I was diagnosed with systemic sclerosis in 2001. Julie has been by my side in every way, and now she is heading our chapter. In addition to raising a family and working 60 hours a week at her regular job. And so this is my pride and my joy. This is Julie Reed.
You know, it's the importance of family when you are diagnosed with this disease is so important. And, you know, if Mary wasn't my sister, she would still be my best friend. And, you know, I volunteered, you know, starting at walks. And what can I do? What can I help? Where can you use me? Then I went to, I got on the board. I don't know how that really happened. And then I ended up being the chapter president. And it's like, it's an honor to be here and to do whatever I can to raise awareness, you know, fundraising, to help everyone in this room, because we've got a long way to go, unfortunately, before there is a cure. You know, in saying that, you know, some of the things that the chapter's doing right now is basically we're trying to fundraise in different avenues. A few of them, Kate Hannon, she's our chapter treasurer, and she's out working diligently in the back. She found something through Amazon called Amazon Smile. You go on there and you pick Scleroderma, and every time you buy something from Amazon, it's going to go right to the Northern California chapter. Also, we have shares cards in the back. When you go shopping at Save Mart, Lucky's, there's a few other stores, you swipe it.
Food Max.
Food Max. You swipe it and automatically 1, 2, 3, 4% will go to NorCal. Our membership drive, everybody in this room, $25 a year, and you get 2 patient ed days, you get newsletters, you get other wealth of information. Our stepping out events, you know, our walks, our runs, you know, that's a great place for us to raise the money for the events. And just donations in general. We have a few things that we're going to be doing, a Chevy's NorCal night out. So, you know, I think it's 8% will be donated to NorCal. So look for that in the emails. Also, eScript, it's another fundraising event. Every time you shop at TJ Maxx or, what's the place you like? Marshall's, thank you. That every time you shop there, a percentage will go to the NorCal. And you know, if you guys have any ideas, bring it to us. Zumba.
I do want to say, you know, these programs, they sound like they're very small, you know, 2%, 3%, 5%, but between these programs and our walk-run events, this is what keeps our chapter solvent and keeps it strong. It keeps us to provide everybody literature, referrals, our support groups. We've added one this year. Our hopes is to add another for 2014. So collectively, all these little small bits and pieces, they really do amount to a good amount of money that, again, keeps us moving forward with what we're trying to do for the chapter for patients, our physician outreach. It's all very, very essential. So if you could contribute by carrying the shares cards with you, giving them out to friends. We pretty much have an endless supply, so don't be shy about asking for several, and get them out and tell people why. And the Scleroderma ID cards, those are so handy, the little business card size that puts such a huge disease in a few very powerful paragraphs.
A few other things I'd like to point out. Our newest board member is in the back, Jamie Waller. She's a disability resource expert for her 9-to-5 job. So she's got information in the back if you need any information about disability social services. And also, we have blankets here. If you get cold, we have a few hand warmers. Parking. So also, Jamie's better half or other half back there, Chris, has the stamp. And make sure you get your parking ticket stamped by Chris, and we can get that taken care of. Bathrooms are out the hall to the left. And I think with that, we're going to introduce our first speaker, Seth Ginsberg. And he has been the keynote speaker for the last 2 national conferences for Scleroderma, and he is awesome. So with that, I'm going to introduce you. Come on up and...
Thank you. Thank you. Awesome. That's the best introduction I've actually ever gotten, because brevity is the soul of wit, right? So I took a photo just now of the two of you up here, and I just want to, before I start, tell you how beautiful it is to see you two here and with your arm around each other, and it gives me goosebumps. And it is a really it's really good to see that, because it makes me feel passionate about what I'm about to tell you all, and what we're going to talk about today, and what we're going to visit and have a chat about. And one of those key takeaway points is about never being alone, and always bringing someone with you, and always having someone along for the ride. And to see you literally with your arm around each other does my heart good, as my mom would say. So anyway, hi everybody, I'm Seth Ginsberg, and I'm really happy to be here. We're going to spend a little bit of time together here, and I'm going to have a chat, tell you a little bit about some of the things that are going on, maybe get everybody amped up. Those were my instructions. Get everyone going today. But then I really want to set aside a good amount of time for us to talk with each other, and for you to ask some questions, and for you all to participate as well. Very important to me. I want to give you a little background, tell you who I am, why I'm here. But before I get there, I'm interested, I always like to know, who came the furthest today to be here this morning? Massachusetts? Whoa. This is how far? Where in California? Roosevelt. All right, nearby. Where? Oh, Dr. Segal. Oh. Modesto. Very nice. Fresno. San Diego. Okay. That's pretty far. Where else? Auburn? How foreign do I sound here? I can't pronounce half the cities in California. Who else? Who else came from far away today? I mean, the other question I like to ask is, who came from the nearest? Is anybody who would say they are the absolute local here? San Francisco? Anybody like Japantown, San Francisco? Right here? Thank you for coming all the way over here, sir. We appreciate the trip you made, and I know it was rainy. So, this is always a fun exercise because it shows that we have something in common, whether we're near or far from where we are together. But coming together is what's most important. I personally came from New York, a small island called Manhattan. And I'm thrilled to be here. I love coming back to San Francisco. I love coming to California. It's like New York without the snow. And we, as two states, I think, anchor our country. And we are two, dare I say, of the most important states in our country, because not only are we such large states with so many people, with such diversity, with so many different walks of life, but I really believe that our country is strengthened and our country is as good as it is because of our two states, New York and California, driving forward in our legislatures in Sacramento and Albany. I know both of them are probably as equal dysfunctional, shall we call it. But at the same time, those are our legislators, our legislature. And I'm going to talk a little bit about advocacy in a moment or two. But I will say our state capitals are fun places, and I'm going to encourage everybody to hang out more there, especially Sacramento, because Albany would be a long trip for you all to make. But it's great that we have two very good states that keep our country as strong as it is. Having said all that, I want to kind of break our talk into three main sections. The first is how to take care of yourself a little better, how to make yourself feel a little better, how to just think of the world a tiny bit differently, perhaps, so that we can be as strong and we can be as healthy as possible. The second thing, or second area I want to talk about, is how we can help each other, how we can take care of each other, how we can help others. But these have to be done in order, because you can't really take care of others until you first take care of yourself. And then the third area I want to talk about is maybe pushing some boundaries, maybe doing something for the first time, or embarking on a new area where you may not have probably done a lot in the past, but I want to give you some really good opportunities to consider trying new things, and they are almost entirely, they all exist on the internet. And I want to just share with you some of the things that are going on online with social media. I know San Francisco is no stranger to all things technology, but it sometimes might feel a little daunting to get involved in something that you've never participated in, like Twitter, for example. But I want to talk about why it's important, and then just tell you how easy it is, because I set my dad up on Twitter last week, and that means everybody can be on Twitter. Okay, that is the official bar that has been set for everybody now. Twitter is open for all now that my dad is on it and can actually tweet. So first, let's go back to helping ourselves. Let's talk about why it's so important to manage our conditions in as assertive, in an as serious a way possible. Now, I by way of background, I was diagnosed with a form of arthritis called undifferentiated spondyloarthropathy when I was 13. And I've lived now 20 years, technically, with arthritis, in the world of arthritis. And people ask me all the time, how do you feel? What's it like? And my answer now is, compared to what, right? This is all I know. This is how I live. It's just a given. If I'm gonna sit on an airplane, I'm gonna walk off feeling poorly. Or if I'm gonna walk down or up one of these steep streets, I'm gonna get to the top, and my knees are gonna tell me how much they don't like doing that. There are all sorts of things that are inherent to living with the conditions that we have. But I do it now. I take care of myself in ways that put me first, and also, more importantly, really practice what we preach in terms of taking care of ourselves and accommodating for what we have to do, so that we don't feel crummy at the end of a day. And I relate, and I understand what it must be like to live with a condition like scleroderma. All of you have, my full heart and my absolute admiration for being as strong and having to deal with as much as you do with scleroderma. And that's all of you, family and friends who, are a part of this, I call it the journey of our condition. But the good news is it's more positive forward than it was in the past. The future is better for all of us living with all of these different forms of arthritis. That is fact. And with that one thought in mind, we now have to get there. We have to get to the future. We have to get there, and we have to make it so that the journey is just as good as the destination. And every day that we're living with our condition is not just a day that we're going to survive with our condition, but it's a day that we're going to thrive despite what we're living with. And there are so many ways that we can do this, and there are so many things that you can do, little tiny things that all add up. Mary or Julie, I think Julie had mentioned, 2%, 3% at the Amazon or the swipe card may not seem like a lot, but it adds up. And the same is true for the little things that you can do along the way that add up to feeling better. And back to that kind of central theme for today, I think the primary thing to do is be surrounded by positive people, supportive people. Be with friends and family who understand but are also there for you. And do it in a way that it creates a team environment, because otherwise we're all out on an island, and no one likes to be on an island. And when you go to your doctor, for example, bringing a member of your family, a friend, a neighbor, somebody who cares about you with you to that doctor visit is a guaranteed better position to be in than if you go alone. It's just that simple. And so when you're thinking about your next doctor's appointment, I think it's key to think about, and for most of you this might already be a given, but it's worth really stressing. Who am I going to go with is just as important as when am I going to go or how am I going to get there. And bringing a second person to be a part of these visits, which are regular, right, which are maybe quarterly or whenever, every 8 weeks or whenever the doctor wants to see you again, it's important that you think of your doctor visits as an opportunity to show up with the team on the field ready to play ball. And that spouse or that family member or friend or neighbor has to understand that they're coming as support, as your wingman, as they say, to allow themselves to be a part of the conversation, to listen to what the doctor has to say, to observe the way that you may be acting in the doctor's visit so that you can maximize that time together. I think a lot of folks, myself, totally guilty of this all the time. We think of our doctor's appointments as a box we have to check, right? It's like, oh, doctor's appointment coming up. I got to get down there. I got to go to the hospital. I got to find parking, this and that. And then you go and you see the doctor, and the question is, how you doing? And the answer is, I'm okay. That's just the way it is. And because remember, compared to what, right? But, when the doctor asks how you're doing and the answer is, I'm okay, that's not a good thing. Because that doesn't make use of the time with this expert. I think of the doctor, in my life at least, my doctors, as the coaches that are on the sidelines of the game who have seen the plays run 1,000,000 times. And they know you got to go right before you split left, and then you got to turn. I don't know, I'm not really into sports, but you get the point. The doctor, though, is that coach who understands because they've got the playbook in front of them, and they're going home at night and they're listening in to the new updates from the scientists, and they're talking to each other at the conferences, and they're reading the journals. Maybe they're online in the discussion forums. And the point is, you, as a patient, get access to this Oracle at Delphi, wisdom, total opportunity to help you person on a regular basis. And I don't think I think that most of us do not take advantage of this the way we should. And that means showing up prepared, excited for the opportunity to have a conversation and doing anything but saying, I'm okay, or so that this person in front of you, this expert, can understand who you are and what you're going through and how it is affecting you and what the medicine might be doing or what the medicine might not be doing with you, for you, so that he or she can be a better coach and that we can be on the field playing a better game that is going to be more likely to be a winning game. And so, I think it's just really important to stress this, and I want to remind everybody, because I think it's very easy to forget, that when we go to the doctor, it's a team game, and it's very much a back and a forth. And, I think I know my doctors are all on pedestals, and I look up to them, and I respect them, and I don't want to piss them off, and I want to make sure everybody is, happy, and I'm early, and all that. But at the same time, I have to remind myself not to be afraid to, push back, to take another 5 minutes and speak about how I actually am affected this, last couple of weeks. And understand that, if I just spend 45 minutes waiting for the doctor, that means we can spend an extra 5 minutes visiting, and I don't have to feel like I need to rush, because it's not my job to get him back on schedule by making our appointment short. It's his job to schedule maybe one patient fewer in the day. So, but we'll talk about the waiting room in a minute too, because I think I've discovered there are fun things to do while we wait for our doctor, and it helps to pass the time. So I also got a email late last night about today, because I had emailed, just by a show of hands, who was able to join us who was here for the national conference in Atlanta? Oh, great. So some of you came, and it's great that you were there, and most of you didn't. So all of my jokes sound new to most of you. This is wonderful news. But in all seriousness, I have a really good friend. He's just somebody that I've known for a long time, a doctor who lives in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, who I met when I was 19 years old. I co-founded Creaky Joints when I was a little boy. I was 17 years old in a college dorm room. And I started going to these conferences, these American College of Rheumatology meetings. And the first one I went to, I was 19 years old, and I met this doctor, this young guy named Roger. And he was from Brazil. The first time I'd ever met a Brazilian in the flesh. And we just hit it off. We became buddies right away, younger guy. And all these years we've stayed, of course, we've gotten much closer, and we see each other and visit and all that. And so anyway, Dr. Levy, I should say, Dr. Roger Levy, but Roger to me, he takes care of a lot of scleroderma patients in Rio. He's viewed as probably one of the wisest and most, I think, interested physicians for certain conditions, scleroderma being one of them, lupus another one of them, kind of a cousin of scleroderma, as I'm sure you know. Anyway, so he cares a lot about scleroderma and has a ton of experience with it. And I emailed him, I said, Roger, what advice do you have for these folks here today that I could pass along? And I woke up this morning to this phenomenal email that was 2 sentences. And the first was, make sure they're prepared for their doctor visit. We got that part, right? And the second is, they better keep going because the future is really exciting. This is from one of the most respected doctors in the world, whose head is always involved in patient care and research, telling me to tell you that the horizon now has more and better opportunities and really cool things for us to think about, ways that we can manage our condition medicines that are going to work differently, but hopefully actually work in a lot of cases. And I just wanted to pass that along because I thought that was just a ray of light to wake up to and to hear his optimism and to know that he's so positive and to share that with you all. So I want to take a pause here, and I want to just make sure that my message of taking care of yourself and staying positive and being with others and going at it together and understanding that your doctor is your partner in this whole thing. I mean, is that resonating? Is that point clear? Have we gotten that down? Is that in our hearts and our minds? Okay. This means I could go home a success, all right? Because step one is taken care of. And not 12 steps, don't worry. But step one really is taking care of yourself and understanding that we have a really amazing future here, and our doctors are there to help, and they're gonna help lead us to that future. And we have to be willing and able to go to that future that's bright and positive with them. And so if you have questions, if you have a single ounce of doubt in your mind that your doctor is maybe not the best doctor for you, and guess what, everybody? That is absolutely positively possible. That you might not have the right doctor for you. And I know people think, no, that can't be. This is the doctor I was given, the hand I'm dealt. This is what I got to deal with. But the answer is actually the opposite. There are a lot of doctors out there. And we have to be not just absolutely sure that our doctor is right for us, but confident and proud and happy to say that we have the right partner in our doctor. And until you get there, keep searching for ways to get there so that you can make the most of these engagements, make the most of these visits, and not feel as though you're checking the box. And Creaky Joints, on our website, creakyjoints.org, we have a whole lot of resources about this very subject, which is obviously very near to my heart, in that we have a series called How to Break Up with Your Doctor. And it's a checklist, and it's a discussion about coming to terms and having that talk with your doctor. You know the talk. It's not you, doc, it's me. And giving that, conversation a go, as scary and as crazy as that might sound, that might be something that would actually serve you best in the long term. And the thing that we mention in a lot of these pieces is, don't worry, you're actually not going to hurt their feelings. Because they're focused now, if they're not right for you, they're already on to the next patient. And so how to break up with your doctor, and then more importantly, how to find the right doctor for you, I think is another step you can take to better yourself, to feel better, and to make sure you're in tip-top shape for what I want to talk about now, and that's how to help other people. So we did a survey, I don't know, about 6 or 7 years ago, and I'm already dating myself, right? If you start early, you can pretend to be a 75-year-old man. So a long time ago, we did a survey. Seriously, we did a survey of several hundred patients who have RA, rheumatoid arthritis, which is a majority of our Creaky Joints community. Of course, we have a wide tent available for resources for everybody. But we did a survey specifically of RA patients, and we found that 74% of people responded that they feel better when they volunteer, during and after the time they volunteer. So we made this correlation between volunteering and feeling better. And just to be clear, when we say volunteering, especially when we talk about volunteering with you all or with our friends with RA, we do not mean putting on a jumpsuit and taking trash off the side of the highway, okay? That is not the volunteering we speak of. I don't encourage anybody to do that type of volunteer work, but I do encourage you to hang out with the chapter office. Spend some time, if you're able to geographically and it's convenient and you can go there. I remember I actually had to bribe my ninth grade bus driver with cookies my mom would make in order to make a unscheduled stop before the Helen Hayes Hospital that I could get out and go after school and volunteer, because I had no other way of getting to the Arthritis Foundation. This is how I would, if they only knew I had to kind of break the rules of school busing to get to my volunteer position 3 days a week in the ninth grade, but it's neither here nor there. But whether or not the Scleroderma chapter, the foundation chapter, is within reach, or maybe there are other places within your community that you can volunteer, it will dramatically improve the way you feel, I promise you. And that might be spending time with someone who maybe doesn't have mobility and can't go out, and you're just gonna visit for an hour or two. I know nowadays that I'm grown up, my volunteering, sometimes I spend, especially in the winter months, I'll go to some friends' houses. One woman, an elderly woman, she's 92 years old, she doesn't leave the house, and I go there. Ironically, she loves wine, so it makes the time really good. But just spending that time, and that might explain why I always feel good when I leave time with her. Or it might be visiting with some children, or spending time with those who are less fortunate. Think outside the box, but spend time helping others, and it will make you feel better. But you can't do that until you take care of yourself first, and of course put your needs first and take care of yourself and your condition so that you can help others. And part of it, I think, is understanding what this world is all about in terms of how different everyone's lives are. And maybe when you spend time seeing others who are less fortunate, it suddenly gives you new perspective on your condition, your situation. And maybe it's that psychological, or maybe it is just physically the opportunity to spread joy and make others feel better, or provide someone less fortunate with something that also has its own, I think, emotional or psychological impact. And it's amazing. And one thing about helping others that I think is available to all of us now, especially with the internet, is the chance to advocate. And when I say advocate, I think people sometimes get the wrong impression. They think now it's time now for the political part of the talk, right? And that's not at all the situation. It's time now to talk about how your voice, lending your story, lending your situation, could be all you need to do to feel better, because that alone will help people. And it will help people because when it's your voice, and it's your voice, and it's your voice, and it's your voice, and it's all of your voices put together, it's very powerful. And that powerful voice about your wants and your needs and your demands as a community of people living with a condition like scleroderma, when we take this voice to the people who need to hear it, the people in charge of our lives, the people who make our policies, or the people who make the regulations, the government. It's not a bad word, but it's, the world we live in, the government. But our voice is crucial to helping them understand what it's all about. And so volunteering, when you think about it, it does span the spectrum. It is maybe for some, no one in this room, putting on a jumpsuit and going out to the side of the highway and picking up trash. But on the other end of the spectrum, it might be helping the Scleroderma Foundation, or joining Creaky Joints with a little note of your condition, your situation, what you go through, so that we can, or the organization can take these voices to the people who need to hear it. And that's volunteering also. And it might be better and easier and more reasonable to say you can spend an hour a week doing that from your smartphone or your iPads or your this or your that on your couch where you're comfortable with those extra comfy socks. Isn't it funny? Every couch has a comfy pair of socks that accompany it. I don't know. Or getting out there and helping others. And there's a spectrum here, and I want to encourage everybody to consider this in their mind, because we can make a difference and help other people by participating in the process. And now I will get a little bit more what we would call wonky, a little more technical about policies and how they actually relate to us. There are, as you're all aware, a lot of different opinions about how our healthcare system should go, right? This is a dicey subject. And in my opinion, in my extremely humble opinion, it sounds to me as if the most vocal voices about our healthcare system are by the very people who don't have to live with the conditions we live with. These are people who are setting the tone and creating the environment that we, with our condition that we're going to have for the rest of our lives, have to now deal with, whether it's at the pharmacy counter or it's at the doctor or it's get the referral to get to this, to get to that. You got to get permission to use the bathroom and this and that. The whole thing sometimes feels incredibly overwhelming. But I think, and I really actually believe that this is because we didn't do a good enough job helping them understand what we're going through in the first place. And now it's not too late to give them that opportunity so they understand what we're going through, so that the corrections can be made, the fixes can occur, so that we can get what we need. And in our opinion, that's access to care. And that means we have to start talking to the elected officials. That means we have to start talking to our representatives who we elected, mind you, and help them understand that we are people living with this condition, and this is what it's all about. It's that simple. I mean, it literally is that simple. We don't have to necessarily come prepared with a 700-part plan that will solve all problems. That's not our job as patients. Our job is just to let them know that we are people who are living with a condition that affects us in the following ways. And when they get that understanding and when they get that sense, it helps them in turn make better decisions for us, because those are people too. Politicians are people too. Some of them. But you can't blame them for not knowing what they don't know. And the same holds true for companies. We, Creaky Joints, and our parent nonprofit organization called the Global Healthy Living Foundation, we are passionate about advocacy to improve access to care. We've all experienced road rage, right? You know about road rage, when someone gets cut off and they get crazy. We have road rage with insurance companies. We have the kind of rage that we only unleash on the companies and the people who wake up every morning to make our days miserable and by restrict access to care and so forth. And it turns out that we're never gonna win a fight against a billion-dollar insurance company, but we are going to chip away at them, and we are going to address issues one by one that we understand to be coming in the way of us and the care that we deserve. And I'll give a real example of that. And that hopefully you can apply these examples to your, to all the different situations you live with. There are something called Medicare administrative carriers around the country, which are 12 regional, I believe it's 12, I think it's 12. There's a bunch of them, at least a dozen. Regional groups of administrative carriers that are companies hired by Medicare to administer Medicare. There's a company that you've never heard of. There's one out here, I believe it's called Noridian. Has anyone heard of Noridian? Of course not. I mean, they're the most invisible company in the world. But they exist in order to manage Medicare so that money gets saved. How does money get saved? By making our lives harder, by restricting our access to the care we rightfully need or deserve. And so just to give you this insane example from the last couple of weeks of what we're going through, one of these Medicare administrative carriers, Noridian specifically, decided that if a medicine were available for a bunch of diseases like rheumatoid arthritis that was both an injection as well as the same medicine for an infusion. Okay, you have to go to your doctor, so it's an infusion, or you get a shipment in the mail in a freezer and it's an injection. But if both of those are available, you're no longer covered for the infusion. You have to take the injection, right? This is called the self-administered drug list. This was a midnight, some Tuesday night ruling that this random company we had never heard of that administers a part of Medicare that we weren't even familiar with in the first place. We woke up and realized that this was going to be a huge problem for a lot of people who can't take an injection because their hands aren't able to use the plunger. And so we called Noridian and we said, "Are you out of your mind? Why would you ever do this?" And they said, "Well, it's a cost containment issue, we have to manage costs somehow." And we found that the cost for an injection, a Part D drug, is a lot cheaper than a medical necessity Part B drug, and blah, blah, blah. And I said, time out. These are for people with rheumatoid arthritis and all the other related conditions. They can't sometimes use their hands right, or PS, they might just be afraid of needles, or any number of 100 other reasons that could have been the reason why they didn't want the injection, like they can't keep a cold, or they're afraid that, of transportation, or whatever it is. And you know what the answer we got was? Wait, people with RA sometimes have trouble using their hands? After that conversation, we had the opportunity to get that stupid ruling reversed, and we put that fire out simply by informing these administrators of reality of living with, in this case, rheumatoid arthritis. And I can't think of a better example now of what it means to advocate and to present your story and share your situation in a meaningful way so that people, whether they are elected officials in Sacramento or Washington, D.C., or they're administrators for a company like Noridian, whatever it might be, they need to hear from us. And groups like the chapter and the national office of Scleroderma Foundation, groups like ours at Creaky Joints and GHLF, will do most of the work. We'll get you all the way to that finish line, so all you have to do is that. And just speak up and share your voice and explain your situation, and then the rest will work itself out, I promise you. I know this for a fact. And we created something called Seth's 50-State Network. I have no idea who it's named after. But the 50-State Network now is an initiative we started last year which allows people with all different kinds of chronic conditions to share their voice, but then learn about all of the ways that you can participate in this process, and we could paint a better picture of what life with our conditions are all about. And if you go onto our website, GHLF, Global Healthy Living Foundation.org, right there on the homepage, there's a link to start to sign up for Seth's 50-State Network. And it might be as simple as getting an email once a month with updates in your region, or if you want to participate in conference calls, you can dial in every couple of weeks, or if you want to start writing letters or emails. I mean, all of the different things are available. It's GHLF.org. And for the first question of the day, that was a good one. And so advocating, I want everyone to understand, is our duty, is our responsibility, but is actually a really hip way to volunteer, not just your time and your energy, but your story and your situation to help other people. I think it's a phenomenal opportunity, and I want to stress this, and of course it's with the Scleroderma Foundation and all of the advocacy efforts that they spearhead, and then ours. We find ourselves, obviously our history is in arthritis, of course, and musculoskeletal issues, but today I'm proud to say our organization is actively fighting all around the world for all kinds of access to care. But it's interesting because it tends to be us with arthritis or autoimmune related conditions advocating for folks who might have cancer and might need access to cancer medicine, or MS, or Parkinson's. And this gets back to what I was saying earlier. It feels good to help other people, and it puts everything in perspective to be able to say, hey, I go through this, this is how challenging it is for me, but it's not cancer, God forbid, and these people have to go through that, and that's not right. And so we have the opportunity to help countless people by getting more involved and by sharing our stories with the people who need to hear it. So that's one way to help other people. I want to take a pause here and ask, are there questions? Does this resonate? Is this something that sounds scary, or is this something that you guys can get into? I see a lot of nodding of the heads, and you're either falling asleep or you're agreeing, and I hope you're agreeing. So yeah, here.
My name is Patricia. Good morning, everyone. I was listening to what you were saying about our doctors being part of our coaches, and that resonated in me because now I have an appointment with my Scleroderma specialist on Monday. And I'm gonna, first thing they're gonna ask is how am I gonna do? I'm gonna have my list ready and prepared to go. But I'm also gonna let them, you're part of my team to help me live my amazing future. I love that, and I think they will respond to that in a positive way to help keep me well and give me the treatment that I need, because I want an amazing future. I want them to help me and to coach me, and those are new words that I will use when I go to it. So thank you so much. You're awesome.
I love it. Thank you. That's fantastic. And you know what? If your doctor doesn't look you in the eye, if this is all you see of your doctor, how to break up with your doctor and 5 easy steps on creaky joints. You know, like you're entitled to your medical records. Those are yours, not his or hers. You're entitled to, you know, a transfer of knowledge from the old doctor to the new doctor, all those things. But I love that attitude. And you are going to go in there, and that is going to be the best doctor visit you've had in a long time with that attitude. That's exciting. And then, you know, I think the next step of this is not just being prepared for the visit on Monday, but what are you going to do Monday night or Tuesday after the visit? And this is something else that, you know, creaky joints and GHLF, and we think a lot about. It's like, how can we log and diary and keep track of our visits afterwards so that we can start to look at how it's going, what patterns are developing. This is my impression of me every time I leave the doctor's office, okay? I walk out the door and I forget to ask that one question, right? And then when I started writing down those questions beforehand, of course it would help to fix that. But when I started writing down after doctor visits that I felt like he was distracted, for example, or I felt like, you know, I was rushed and I didn't get to ask all my questions, those started to show me signs that that one particular doctor that I had to see wasn't the right doctor for me. And so getting that prepared is a phenomenal thing. We have a problem that's on the horizon. I want to point this out just because we're always thinking about the future. You know, now all these doctors have to use the computer, right? Called the electronic medical records. And they have to sit there, and it's mandated by law. And it's a good thing overall because, you know, there's a time and a place for typewriters. The doctor's office is not one of them. But the unintended consequence of that is now you've got doctors on their mouses trying to figure out how to code the doctor visit and the put the this and the that and the pull down menu and we're going to have to work through this problem because we're starting to see more and more doctors are, you know, they have to do this. It's forced for good reasons, but like I said, unintended consequences. This is all you see of your doctor. And I think it's worth everybody here knowing, if you took one thing away from today, you could say, hey, doc, how about looking at me in the eye? Could you imagine if you said that to your doctor? Don't be afraid of saying something like that, because it will put him or her on notice that you are a person and not just a subject number 11669 that's in the office, but someone that also needs a little eye-to-eye contact.
That was actually what happened to me the last time I saw my rheumatologist. And I actually said to him, this impacts rapport with you. And he said to me, we have to do this, and this is how we get paid. Now, perhaps he could have verbalized it a little differently, and I wouldn't have been so offended, but I haven't been back to him, and I know I need to go. But I have an issue with doctors who I know it's all about money, but they can also write stuff down and then go back and put it in their note tablet, in my opinion. And I suggested that to them.
Yeah, exactly. All we're doing here is pointing out a very real issue, right? But now we have to think of very real solutions, and we have to think of the things that we can do to deal with it. We appreciate their side. I appreciate they have to earn a living. Most doctors are dramatically, Dr. Segal, all doctors are underpaid, and they're overworked. But that doesn't mean they can't look us in the eye and do something a little differently so we feel like people that they're taking care of, or partners in the program. And so, I hope when you do go back, you can bring that how to break up with your doctor, 5 easy steps.
I just wanted to share that the smartest thing I ever did was to correlate all of my doctors under one roof. So I now, with UC Davis or Sutter or wherever you choose to go, do them all within that group. This way, everyone can watch what's going on with you medically.
Bev, fantastic advice. And, I will say I'm envious. I've always been envious. New York, I look at California with envy about your health plan systems are generally really well organized, and you can have a dermatologist and a rheumatologist and a primary care physician, and then when you bump your head when you go to get the cat litter, a neurologist and anybody else, and they can see each other's notes, and that is very important because it is centralized. And so these are the good things about technology, right? These are the positives that are coming. But we have a long list of things that we can do to better ourselves with our doctor, but don't feel like you have to do them all at once, right? Little things, those little comments will add up and make a difference. The last bit I want to talk about here in helping others, and this is the most exciting part, is what it means to participate in research. And I know you've heard this story a million times, right? Research is your friend, participate in research, sign up for this, be a part of that, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, all of those things, times a million. But I think about it, and we think at Creaky Joints about it a little bit differently. We think research should mean giving the scientists and the researchers and the doctors, and for that matter, the public, an understanding of who we are, and doing it by all participating in little things, again, that share our situation so that we can add up everybody's situation in a way that then starts to shed light on what's happening. And think of yourselves all as one little clue. And that tiny little clue, when you add them all up, can become big clues for the people that are starting to look at the patterns, or starting to look at the responses, and starting to look at what might work better. And we have here on the table here a little flyer about Creaky Joints, because we just started this new initiative on our website called Creaky Joints Pro. And all it means is registering with the website and sharing completely anonymous information about what you're going through, what medicines you're taking, what you used to take, all of these things, so that now we can start to expand our understanding, because there are millions of people, right, that have all of these related conditions that we now are able to look at in what's called a common data model, so that everybody's, 300,000 people with scleroderma, 2.2 million people with rheumatoid arthritis, 5.5 million people with psoriatic. When you add up the individuals, the sum is much larger, and that gives us a very clear understanding, or a better understanding. And as it relates to scleroderma, here's one thing I will say that Roger had mentioned to me as well the other day. I think the fact is there are a lot of promising therapies on the horizon for scleroderma. However, the ones that are out there are a little out of reach because I don't think that the regulators like the FDA or the researchers for that matter realize how badly we want it, how much we need it, and all of the ways that these therapies can help us. And it means to me that we have a bigger responsibility and we have more importance on participating in these projects so that these therapies can become within reach, and then they can become approved for an indication like scleroderma, and they can become covered by the insurance company. And none of that happens without all of us participating. And with Creaky Joints, we're not about experimenting or clinical trials or any of that. We're more about helping the world know who we are as people. And that's why I would really love for you to register and participate in our programs, because sharing a little bit about yourself, again, in a completely anonymous way, allows the experts to begin to see what's going on and understand how we feel about our doctors, for example, or understand how we're responding to certain things, whether they're volunteering or medicines or just going for a swim or something. And all of this information, because we have so many millions of people now orbiting our community, we need everybody to share a little bit so that we can add it all up and put it where the sun don't shine for some companies, but also share it with the public and make them aware, or with the elected officials and make them aware, or the regulators like the FDA make them aware. So research is a new word, in my opinion. Whatever you used to think about research, whatever you thought it was about drinking this green vial of stuff, tell us if you grew a third ear, or whatever that might be. That's something from a bygone era. I think today, research means spending 2 minutes on your laptop or your iPad or your phone and just giving a little bit of information to help go a long way for everybody to understand us better. And research is our duty. It's our job, because so many people came before us to participate in research just so we could get to where we are today. What are we going to do for the people that come after us? And that's use technology, the greatest thing to happen to our generation. Technology, trust me, you might not love it, and there are times when I hate it. But technology is an amazing thing, and it finally intersects with knowledge, with humanity, with who we are as people, and with communication tools, and then with researchers and with the scientists and with the doctors and with everybody else. We are at that point. This is a crucial time. So this is a new word, research. That means we are together going to forge ahead and make that future ours, because we deserve it. But we're not going to get there without participating. We're not going to get there without helping other people along the way. We'll feel better in the process, but we'll also get to where we need to go quicker, and we'll get there with the sense of accomplishment because we got there together. And the scleroderma community is so important to participate in this. Your voices need to be heard, not just for advocacy reasons, but for the development and the research and the realization of these dreams that I know we share. They're coming, they're in our future, and only we can accelerate that by engaging and by participating and by taking a couple of minutes to be a part of that process. That is my pitch for why you should be a part of research. That is my new definition of the word research. That is something I hope everyone leaves here today to sign up for Creaky Joints. It's totally free. We'll never sell anything. If I were good at selling, I'd be out on the street with shoes on a kiosk. But instead, I just want to make everybody feel better, and that's why we created and we labored for the last 18 months or so on putting this together. So by all means, I would invite everybody to participate so the scleroderma community on Creaky Joints can have a larger voice and have more activity, which it deserves. And that, of course, gets shared, again, de-identified, anonymous way with our partners and friends at the foundation, and then the researchers here at UCSF and everywhere else. So that is my pitch for why you should participate. Last bit, and then other questions if you might have them. This Twitter thing is amazing. My dad sat me down last weekend, and he said, I think it's time I joined Twitter. And I said, what? And he said, yeah, I keep seeing it on all the ads, and I keep hearing about it on CNN, just so he could talk to Miles O'Brien, was why he wanted to go on Twitter. And it took 5 minutes to sign up. And then he said something very cute. He said, I'd like to go out and buy a book so I can learn how to use this. And I thought, that's a novel idea, buying a book to learn something about the internet. But lo and behold, we went to the bookstore, and there's an entire section of books, nice big books with illustrations that take you through step by step something like Twitter. And I encourage everybody to get on Twitter, to be a part of it, because it's how we can talk to each other. And most importantly, you might not think of yourself as someone who needs to be on Twitter, right? I mean, we did all right all these years without Twitter. I think we'll be okay without Twitter. But the answer is, the reason why you should is so we can talk to, and this is the secret about Twitter, social media or Facebook can dramatically sway these elected officials' opinions when they sit there and they read their tweets about anything. And so if you needed a reason to get on Twitter, it's not so you could share what you had for breakfast this morning, okay? Because trust me, we don't care. And if you have friends that care, good for you. But what we should be on Twitter to do is raise our voice and share our perspective and speak out on issues. Because when you use Twitter, you can do it in a way where the elected officials and the word like Scleroderma, for example, can be tagged, can be referenced to your tweet. So suddenly the folks in Sacramento or the folks down in Washington, they will hear it and it will register. I promise this. The thing about Twitter is every one of these elected officials, to feed their ego, need their Twitter accounts. And that is something they're Facebook is a completely different version of Twitter. Twitter is about talking back and forth in very quick, very succinct ways. Facebook is about sharing through graphics and in pictures and the like, with more of a visual impact. They're very different, but they're very good, both of them, for what they do. The Creaky Joints Facebook page has an average of 500,000 conversations a day that people are sharing and talking about. And it's because the woman who handles our page is the funniest woman in the world, and her humor really resonates with people. And then it gets serious during the day, and then back at night it's very funny before you go to sleep. And those are the kinds of things we do. So of course you're invited to join us, but set your own account up. Set it up. It's free. It's easy. Someone in your life will show you how to do it, and that is why you have to be on social media, so that your voices can be heard. And that's it, really. So thank you. So, we covered a lot today. Taking care of yourself, very important. Approaching your doctor a little bit differently in your mind. Taking care of each other and helping others. Participating in the process and the relentless pursuit of learning more about ourselves and each other with research. advocacy is probably not what you thought it meant, and social media and Twitter is something that you have to do. This is a must. I am not coming back here until everybody is on Twitter so that we can tweet with each other all the time about breakfast. Just kidding. And your regional, I'm sorry, state, regional, state, Northwest California?
NorCal.
NorCal, sorry, okay. The NorCal Scleroderma Foundation needs your volunteer time and energy. And now that we've talked about a couple ways you might be able to do it from your couch with your socks on, I know they would take that, but also to come to the events and to participate in the programs is also important. That's all I really have to say today, but I want to make sure we answer all the questions that we need to when we visit here and everybody leaves happy.
I hate to tell you this, but my daughter a year ago gave me her iPhone, and she wanted me not to get lost so I could use GPS. I gave it back to her last week. I said, this is way more than I know how to do or want to do, so I'm really sorry.
I totally understand, and I envy
It's
that in
way
a lot
too
of ways.
much
It's
company.
way too much. And, they build these things. I remember planned obsolescence the first time I shaved. My dad said, you're going to be buying a new razor every 2 weeks until you die. And I thought, that's not fair. And it's the same thing with these phones, right? We're going to need a new one, and they're going to always, whatever. But that doesn't mean you can't, when you're visiting with your daughter, for example, at her house or apartment, use the computer that's definitely there and spend a couple minutes with your Twitter account just logging how you feel about an issue or your situation. That's all we ask. We don't need everybody on their iPhone all the time because society would implode if it did. We count on a lot of people not to use technology so we could stay human. But yes, there's a medium in there. But I know what you mean. Yeah.
Can you give us an example of a question you might pose, let's say for RA on Twitter?
Yeah, I'll give a better real-life example. 2 seconds, and I know I'm going a little over here, so okay.
You're fine.
Great. This is what's on my mind this week. There's a new medicine that's coming out. The Food and Drug Administration just approved a new medicine called Zohydro, which is a 50 milligram dose of opioid, a pain medicine that has no acetaminophen, no Tylenol. So people with liver issues can take it and not have fear of that problem. And 50 milligrams is a lot. We usually take 5 milligrams for pain, but these are for people who have severe chronic pain, and it's extended release. So you take one, and then you're good for 24 hours, right? We all know the problems with drug abuse, and we all know what happens with opioids and the hydrocodones and these medicines in the street, and it's terrible. It's terrible. But this medicine was approved because it was deemed safe, and it worked, until 29 state attorneys general started complaining and demanding that the FDA revoke its approval and take it off the market and make it not available. And in the wake of that, Governor Deval Patrick in Massachusetts declared a medical state of emergency yesterday and said, this drug is not allowed in my state. I don't care. You've got a legislature in Ohio that has got a bill now pending that says this drug is not allowed in the state of Ohio. And it's because of these people who have abused these medicines are way more vocal and take up a lot more of our space in our heads than the people who just need a pain medicine because they can't even get out of bed. They are crippled from pain because of an industrial accident. The medicine is called Zohydro, Zohydro. So we don't think it's right that states are telling the FDA what medicines they should approve because of people who abuse it. That's law enforcement's problem. That's the doctors who are writing these pain medicines and pill mill, they call it. And we believe instead we should monitor these medicines, these powerful medicines. We should have a monitoring program that's electronic, but also that we're very careful about who gets them and how much they get and all that. And so we've taken to Twitter, we've taken to social media and Facebook. We have allowed people who need these medicines to share their reasons for why. And the things that we have been seeing in the last 2 weeks, I don't think these attorneys general ever even had a clue about. The man who fell off a 3-story ladder and broke his back in 16 places, that guy needs a painkiller, before and after surgery. Or when the impacted wisdom tooth even, whatever it is, these people, their stories need to be shared. So just giving people a chance to use Twitter, for example, to share their little vignettes, their little example of why a medicine like Zohydro or whatever the other medicines might be are necessary is a really good example of how to use social media or what we're using Twitter for. And there are countless other examples, and we use it to raise awareness about a lot of things. But that's this week's headache, so to speak. So, yeah. Other questions?
I don't have any of these conditions, but I have a lousy back. And I've been on Vicodin for 19 years in varying amounts and controlled. And now my physician is saying that I'm going to have to go back to physical therapy, I'm going to have to go to a psychologist, et cetera, to continue my pain meds. And I find it really disgusting.
It's not cool at all. Yeah, and believe me, our hearts go out to these, 19-year-old girl who was put on a Vicodin for a toothache and became an addict and then hit the streets and then started taking heroin. And I mean, things go very badly for people. And one of our points is there were people who abused these medicines then, and there will be people who abuse these medicines in the future. But that should not prevent those of us who need these medicines from being allowed to get these medicines under the care of a doctor or several doctors and the supervision of our family and the responsibility that we as patients bring to the table. So there are a lot of things we advocate about, and we couldn't do it, and certainly not as well as we do using social media and Twitter and all these other new technologies. So the issues remain very important to us. The way we tell the stories about it and the way we address these issues is what continues to change, and it's our job to stay on top of it and then to share what needs to be addressed.
This may or may not be a touchy subject, but is there anything that we need to be aware of regarding the new Affordable Care Act?
So for the next 4 hours, I think what you need to know about the Affordable Care Act, you need to learn from trusted sources who know about the Affordable Care Act. And that's the Scleroderma Foundation, NorCal chapter. That's the Global Healthy Living Foundation. That's any number of sources that you need to learn from. That's your doctor's office, among other places. It is not Fox News. It is not MSNBC or CNN. That is not where you learn about the Affordable Care Act. And we as patients who are going to be patients for the rest of our lives, for better or worse, it's our duty to know the most that we can about the Affordable Care Act. And my general takeaway for you is, I think we're a lot better than we were, but we have a long way to go, and we have a lot more that we have to do. And that means making adjustments and changes, but also realizing that this country had one very messed up system going into the Affordable Care Act. And I hope that as we keep making adjustments to it, we put out the fires and the squeaky wheels get their grease and so forth. But generally speaking, people deserve access to health care. It is a right, not a privilege, in my opinion. And we have to support that process by knowing about it, by understanding what's at stake and what's involved, and then by participating in the conversation. So A, things are better than they were, but we have a long way to go. And B, speak up. Call that state senator. Call your congressman. So let's see, we're in San Francisco. It's Congresswoman, Senator Dianne Feinstein, yeah. And Barbara Boxer is the other senator, and then Pelosi, of course, Nancy Pelosi. The fact that I forgot, I'm surprised the hole didn't open up and I didn't fall right through here and, get sucked up into the, the ether here. Of course, Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi, I mean, pretty much you have her to thank for anything that did happen, for better or worse. But she needs to keep hearing from you. She needs to understand what's going on. And she's got a district office that is most interested in what you have to say. And again, another plug for our 50-state network will help you understand the best ways to tell them about it, because it's our Affordable Care Act. We are the people. We are the United States. The politicians that make the laws are mostly the people that have never lived a day. I know they have never lived a day with scleroderma. I mean, is that safe to say? But more importantly, they've got their issues, but we have to share our issues so that they understand it, and they become their issues. So, but we can have a much longer conversation about that. Other questions? Sure, yeah.
I just wanted to address the question regarding the doctors typing on their computers while they're visiting us. One of the things that they're pushing in mental health as a therapist is that they want us to also be typing with our clients while we're doing our session. Pros and cons. Well, I like to think of it as a positive in that I know what my doctor's typing about me and I can read it. The same with my therapist. I know what my therapist is writing when she's typing it, and I can make corrections. Oh, doctor, that's not what I said. You misunderstood me. Please correct that. So there are some opportunities there that you can take from this and make it an inclusive visit. Because if they're excluding you from reading what they're writing, then that's not going to be helpful. I want to be inclusive in my typing, and your typing, doctor. What are you writing about me? So I would, try that and see what they tell you. Thank you.
That's a great comment. That's exactly what days like today are all about. Sharing our strength and our experiences and benefiting from each other's insights.
I just have a question for you. So you've had RA for most of your life, you said, or a different form. What's your view on pain meds? Because I've struggled a lot with not wanting to take them, but then my days are worse not wanting to take them because I don't want to be dependent on something, but then I literally can't get out of bed. So it's a fine line. Where do you view that having a condition for most of your life?
I knew it was a sensitive subject when I brought it up. And it's one of those issues that when we think about opioids and pain medicines, most people run the other way. Most organizations definitely run the other way. My personal view is the following. I think of pain medicines as being the absolute last resort. And I think in terms of an analogy, right? You may have a little fire in your kitchen and you want to try and put it out, a grease fire or something. And you might do that. And hopefully you do anything you can to put that fire out right there. Everyone keep a fire extinguisher in the kitchen, right? Okay. But if you need to call the fire department, you can call the fire department and you know the fire department's going to come. But you know what's going to happen after? You're going to have had 2 fire trucks in your front lawn and your entire house will be completely doused with water and everything will be a little worse off. But the fire will be out. And I think in those analogies, in those terms, when it comes to that Vicodin, that medicine that you probably have in the back of your pill bottle basket and a couple left over from the last time, and we all know how responsible we have to be about them. And these are definitely not the medicines we take for a good time. This is San Francisco. I'm sure you could find something else for that. But we have to save it for when we absolutely positively need it. And then there are others who can't function without it, and for whom a little bit all this time has done wonders for. But we have to be responsible, and we have to be incredibly careful with it, and that's where the experts come in. That's where the doctors have to be. We can't be ashamed of anything we talk to our doctor about, including how we feel about medicines like Vicodin. And my heart hurts at the thought of doctors also wanting to run away from the subject, because these are medicines like any other, and the fact that some doctors don't want to have anything to do with it for fear of the Drug Enforcement Agency or somebody coming and getting them is also a shame. But being honest, but also being very as mature and as careful as possible, I think, are what I would caution. But I think about the fire department all the time. You know, you don't want that fire truck parked in your front yard. Your bushes will be ruined, but your whole house will be wet. But the fire will be out. So, were there any other questions?
What was the last name of that doctor, your friend
Roger Levy, Levy. Yeah. He's such a sweetheart. And there's the foundation has, Scleroderma Foundation has the YouTube video. We did a little YouTube video interview last year at the national conference, and he's always got a smile on his face. And so, Dr. Levy, if you want to watch online, your daughter will, you can, when you go back to your daughter's house, you do it with her and you watch, okay? I just want to end by just sincerely thanking you all for being here, for coming all this way on a rainy Saturday. And I know how hard it is to get motivated on a rainy Saturday. Trust me, I know. But coming here is an incredible step in the right direction to help yourself. And I know you're better off. Everyone will leave here a little better than when they came, and that's all that matters to me. And to the NorCal chapter and the Wonder Sisters, who are, the poster women for siblings and support and love and the chance to help one another and support one another is a blessing. And so you're blessed, but we're blessed to know you, and then for the invitation to be here. So we look forward to seeing you all on Creaky Joints. And sign up. It's free. Do it so you can get my humor in your inbox from time to time, but also so that we can all feel better together. We have a lot of work to do, and it's going to start right here in California and states around the country, and we're going to go there together. So thank you very much for having me.
Well, this was just a wonderful, wonderful session with Seth, and I'm so proud to say that you were here and you were just as enjoyable at our national conference, and the wonderful information that he has imparted with us, the empowerment. And I just want to say, Julie has been after me for Twitter for quite some time. I'm going to go on Twitter. I'm going to learn how to work. I'm going to put my novel away where it should be, and I'll be on Twitter, and I will see you all there.
And I'd like to thank Seth for his great talk and the energy. He's what we need here. We have to be alive. We have to have fire in our belly. And I stalked him on Twitter. That's why he's here. So, yes, it does work. And it's exciting. Thank you, Seth, for everything. It was wonderful.